connect to the heart, to the eye, to the saliva, the salivary gland, to the lung, and various different organs as well. The only thing I want to point out to you is, let's just take a look right here. See the heart? See the wires? So this particular nervous system, these connections, these fibers, are going to release a neurotransmitter that are going to stimulate the heart, right? Because in this case, we want to raise the heartbeat. This is the fight or flight. And so you can imagine even with skeletal muscles, which they don't show you much here with skeletal muscles, do they? They don't. That's weird. But it connects with skeletal muscles as well. Again, increasing blood flow, okay, to run. What I want you to see, though, is this is the parasympathetic. It's similar. The same organs are affected. So again, here is your heart. So you have two wires that carry out two different functions on the same tissue. So one's going to stimulate and one's going to reduce. And it depends, again, which way the body wants to gear. If you're getting ready to fight, this will be higher. If you're getting ready to digest, this will be higher. And again, it's just that state that you're in. Does that make sense? It's hard to describe this in a short amount of time, but that's the easy way, I think, of doing it. So let me give you some examples of how this works. And this is getting too complicated for any kind of exam. But let me just say right here. So it says dual intervention. So just so you, I'll never ask anything on this. It just explains things a little bit better. Okay? So you have cells in your heart, right? Cells in your heart. Now, those cells are pacemakers. Think about them. You're here. It's not the pacemaker that you get put in your heart. It's not the electronic pacemaker. There are actually true pacemakers in your heart that keep the rhythm. Okay? Those cells are going to have receptors for neurotransmitters. Now, some of those neurotransmitters are going to be EPSPs, and some are going to be IPSPs. Does that make sense? We talked about this idea, right? And so you can imagine that the sympathetic nervous system is going to release EPSPs. They're going to be excitatory. And the parasympathetic is going to release IPSPs or inhibitory. And depending on how many of those are predominant, the heart rate is going to respond in turn. That's on the same cell. But you can also have different cells responding different ways. And so you can see this as well. So we have the pupils. Here's a good example here. So the iris of the eye, what actually makes your eyes green or blue or black or hazel or whatever the case may be, right, is that thing we call the iris. And the actual hole we call the pupil. Now, the pupil can dilate or constrict, can become bigger or can become smaller. And we actually see a response. This is actually an indication of our state with respect to our involuntary nervous system. So if we are in a state of sympathetic, where it's really predominant, we'll be in a state where our eyes tend to be dilated, our pupils are dilated. So we are seeing a sympathetic event. So if we're really alert and we're running away, our eyeballs are, think about that, your pupils are dilated, right? But if you're nice and content, you had your turkey dinner, and you're sitting in a nice lazy boy chair, your pupils are really teeny. Because you're resting and digesting. Make sense? There's a lot of things involved, a lot of tissues involved in that. I'm not going to get into all the details here. The only other thing I'll mention is right here. This may come up when you talk about the cardiovascular system. It just depends on your teacher, so I'll mention that. I made you believe, and rightfully so, that like the heart, for example, is innervated by both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's true. Okay? But blood vessels are not. So what controls blood pressure or the dilation or constriction of blood vessels is actually only one of those. It's the sympathetic nervous system. So depending on the rate of the sympathetic nervous system, your blood vessels can either dilate or contract. And so you can see right here, you have one wire, and depending on the stimulus, the number of nerve impulses, and this case, very, very many, you have a high number of action potentials coming down in a very short given of time, high frequency. This causes constriction of the blood vessels, vasoconstriction, which is going to increase blood pressure, among other things. And then if you have a relaxation, that's caused by a reduction in frequency. So it's not like you have two different wires coming in, you have one, and it just changes the frequency, and that results in different things. So why is this important? Well, think about this now. So again, it's all about blood flow. So if you are getting ready to fight or flight, you're going to increase blood flow to your muscles. And so the neurons, the sympathetic neurons that are going to your muscles are going to get this kind of frequency to cause constriction, to increase blood flow to the skeletal muscles. But over here, the same sympathetic nervous system is going to reduce blood flow to your intestines. That makes sense? So the same thing's happening at the same time in different parts of the body. Again, it's all about blood flow. That's what it's all about. That sounds like a Viagra commercial. It's all about blood flow. It's not. Okay. So that's it. The last thing here is just giving you some ideas of the different parts of the body involved in different parts of the brain. I really don't care about that. It just says, for the most part, all it says is just a lot of things we can't control. Okay, the only thing we can really control, obviously, is urination and defecation. Thank goodness for that. Right? Okay? So good. It's not even 8 o'clock.